Muy buenas noches to everyone. I hope everybody's blessed and as always enjoying family. Y como siempre, muchísimas gracias, Tony, for allowing me to get on your platform. Stories written by a current prisoner to share my stories, and in the hope that it could turn from an ugly thing to a positive thing for someone. And as always, les agradezco muchísimo de corazón every one of you guys' prayers and for you guys taking the time to express all your words towards me. Muchísimas gracias. Now for the story, it's gonna be a little continuation on the story I put out yesterday. As I mentioned that it was gonna be relevant, in my story. But before I get into it, I would like to clear up, basically what what we're entailed to do in Mexico. When I came down here, the Pilis, they had you could say a pipeline to where when something's out of order, the mainly the Sinaloa, they send us in. Basically, we get to a town as with pochillos or whatever you want to call it, and we get there. We do a little messing around, but we got an objective when we get to a town, which is either somebody has to go or está meando fuera de la cazuela and it needs to get right or X thing, it's just basically it's easier that way than to have a whole caravana of guys from them go in and they're gonna end up losing a lot more. So what we were getting out of it was basically, prices and you could say a secure pipeline to the other side, which within time it would change because we started plugging directly with certain people in Culiacan, And I'm not gonna say it was my doing. I know I was part of it, but there was a lot of camaradas in play and all of it, But I just thought I would share it just in case, I could tell my story and it might be, coming out a little confusing. But that's basically when I got here what we were entailed to do. We basically just sat around and supported what we needed to support. And it is how mostly you see camaradas always, hitting the joints here for 187s, XX. The one thing I would say is that they would respond, which as you guys know with the Pili Evil, he would always hit the feds, and somehow, some way, they would respond and get him out. So it was kind of like a win-win relationship, right? To an extent, because you always got those guys that are going against the green. For example, the story I told yesterday, in no way or form was it meant, to put my 2 cents on something that I don't belong or didn't belong to. It's just something that happened while I was down here. I talked about, the guy that was going by Frost. Now, while we're in Culiacan, we're just sitting around. Everything had been quiet for a little bit, and then next thing we got the pitazo that, there was a bato. Basically, that from 18th Street they call Pelon, and that he was working with a certain cartel, down south towards Oaxaca, Veracruz, that area, and that he was uh he was basically taking advantage of the position he was in and basically tumbando, jacking, and at the same time he had another character with him, but it wasn't clear who it was. So basically they sent four of us. It was me and the homie Stretch, Pinky, and another guy to go down there and basically just play a fool and see if we could spot the target and remove him, Now we all knew what went with the territory, it was basically if we get caught, we stay quiet and we take our butt whooping, and you know, sit in jail to where we're bailed out or we're snuck out behind from the back door, you know, because that's how Mexico works. You pay the judge, you pay the DA, and they open the back door and you're just gone. So, anyways, so we ended up going where we went to was Veracruz. That was our last intel that he was staying out in Veracruz. So as we're there, you know, we're just sitting around, getting to see the spots and getting to know. And there's a lot of good spots in Mexico. They're beautiful spots, you know, especially if you love nature. So there's a lot to see. So we're doing that, and we we got to see who Pelon was, you know, and in effect, you know, it was at one point he was a camarada from 18, but I think he got fed up with all the rules and regulations, and he came down here, and as far as we knew, he had family that was plugged in too with them individuals, so he was basically blending in good, you know, leaving all his roots as a camarada behind. Because at one point I heard that, well, he was up there, you know, he was up there in Pelican Bay doing his thing in the system, but he was out here and he was going about his life, you know, as it should be, you know. There's just certain dummies as myself that can't seem to pull away, you know. It's just a lot of people tell me till this day, you know, that I'm loyal, stupid, and it's probably true, you know. It's why I probably went through so much in my life. But anyways, I disculpen that I sidetracked it. But as we're there, you know, we see this other individual. Now, as soon as we see this cat, we know exactly who it is, you know, because as I stated, we were in Guanajuato busted with him. So it's this guy that he went by Frost when he was over there, but over here in Veracruz, he was going by Gina. Now I don't really know his background to the fullest. You know, all I know that he claimed to be an NF member, and he did have Sacramento and an NF on his neck, and you know he had a lot of juice, like I stated out there in Guanajuato, cause he had those norteños that were, you know, they were out here in Mexico doing things for them. For example, you know, jacking little stores, things like that, which that didn't concern us. You know, Guanajuato belonged to different organizations than the ones we do things with. So, but he was over here now with Pelon, and that did concern, you know. So basically, we did a little background check on Homeboy, and he was just one of those cats, you know, that at one point I guess he was up there, you know, sitting in the shoe, and he was somebody, but came down here and he was using that to his advantage, as they all do, you know, to be sincere. But in what he was doing, he was playing two faces. For example, you know, he was telling certain norteños, I guess, that there were some spots to hit where they were gonna come up. They would hit him, come up, and homeboy got his cut, whatever. Then he would actually turn them into the cartel, so they would chop him up, cause that's how Mexico is, you know. So by him doing this, we reached out to a camarada that, no, not a camarada, he was a norteño, you know, that they call Worm from San Jose, and we basically told him, you know, like, hey, we're willing to support you. What do you want to do? But you know, the homie or the norteño, he was like me, I guess, you know, just loyal dumb, you know, that he said he couldn't do it because he had his reasons, you know, which we all know the reasons, and basically we had already agreed, you know, we're gonna go ahead and take care of it, you know. So we had we had to, not to lift up dust, you know. We couldn't hit the plaza, you know. We couldn't get there and get in a shootout, whatever. We were just meant to grab him, hog tie him, and take him back. which which we did. But in this case, we took both of them back. And the thing is with Pelon is that, man, not only did he backtrack from being a camarada, he was being dirty with camaradas. He would actually be one of the ones that would set the discipline for them when they were getting busted in those states. And you know, I never got busted in those states, but I could sincerely tell you that, man, they really go to town on us, And for a while, they were telling them because there was a governor change, and here in Mexico, every time the governor changes in the state, the plazas changes. So he was skinning people alive, or he was ordering to skin people alive and leaving them all around town. And Homeboy had an agenda against camaradas, As far as I know, he never dropped out. Nothing bad happened to him, but he was just salty against camaradas for some reason. So we ended up hog tying him and taking him. And once we got back to Sinaloa, basically they wanted Pelon, and they told us to go ahead and do whatever we wanted with Homeboy. So again, we gave the norteño, first hands at this vato, but he didn't want to do it. So needless to say, we ended up we ended up having to deal with it, and taking him to a fosa, and Pelon, well, I'll just do it like this. He was one of the ones that was found on a bridge, basically sending a statement out there, that whoever's jacking them casitas that belong to them, that's what's gonna happen, Mexican style. This is what happens in Mexico, But in all this, a whole bunch of different things were going on. For example, out of all the pilis that I was rubbing elbows with in Mexico, and we're doing our thing, I was surprised. For example, one day we went out there to Sonora. I'm not gonna disclose this place, but we met up with the old man from Ontario, and out of all of them, the old man, as usual, he's always doing the thing to the fullest, and he was in knee deep, I'm talking about when we pulled up. It was something that camaradas or pilis here in Mexico don't really do. For example, he drove up with about 6, 7 trucks, with camaradas, strapped to the teeth and guarding him, and because he was holding some part of the plaza for whoever he was holding it, and he's actually, he was a big weight out here too. He is till this day, and basically we sat down and we discussed what was going on. For example, for those that know, in Tijuas, there had been, man, there had been in the course of maybe 4 months, there had been 4, 5, 6, about 12 camaradas and 2 pilis, no, 3 pilis, excuse me, that had been taken out right there in TJ, just in that little area, from Tijuas to Rosarito and back, to Tecate, in that little area. So he was telling us that, we had to do something about it, because that couldn't be happening no more. And at this time, the only vato that was there, like I stated, was Danny Boy's nephew. And so we started reaching out, but to our surprise, Homeboy, he had already jumped chips, he had already, chameleon himself with the Arellanos, and he didn't really want to hear it no more, At the end of the day, he said, quien la caga la limpia, Basically, whoever messes up is gonna clean it, So basically telling us, like do your thing, but don't count me in it. So for the course of what 4 or 5 months, we sent about four homies, and they were there for about a week, and they were being taken out. Now the old man from Ontario did reach out to Bat, but again, we're basically shut down because I guess Bat, he had his influence and he was being supported, but he didn't want to push that line to the point where they ended up cutting him off. So again, we sit here and discuss what greed is. It ain't about the camaradas. It ain't about what's going on to to help our people. It's about I'm a dope fiend. I need my money. I need my dope. I ain't gonna get involved because I don't want to lose that. So again, the causa been thrown out the window. So by me saying this, basically it's like same thing, just different weather. In a different spot. And that old man from Ontario, he wanted to do something, but at the same time, everybody knows his situation, and he was really taken care of in the state where he was at, so he couldn't be bouncing around from state to state, which I would later come to learn when something uprose and and went all bad for us. But I will get into that story, in the future. By this time, we had learned that, I don't know if it's correct for me to put his name out there, but right there in Puente Grande, Jalisco, there was a carnal, a pili that hit the pinta, and he got there to the pinta, and he started trying to recruit, trying to do his program the way they're used to it, pushing their weight around, and that's why I've heard other people talk about how they be acting in Mexico, which is nothing to the case, because this Billy got there and he started trying to do his thing. Next thing you know, you had the vatos in there that ended up cutting his head, and they got caught playing soccer with his head. And I'm pretty sure by me saying this, everyone that's in the know knows who I'm speaking about, because it was something really big, because I remember we got pulled to do a meeting again in the state where the Billy was at, and we're trying to see what we could do in regards to this, but in reality, we couldn't do nothing about it because it happened inside the Pinta, and there was all different types of cartels in there, So we had to we had to chuck it up to what it was. And then the day, it's Billys are so used to pushing their weight and getting their way that they seem to forget, that we're not where we belong, per se. I understand, we're Mexicanos, Chicanos, and this is a motherland, but we're looked as outsiders, and we need to respect. He could have gotten there and just blended in, and I don't know if you guys also heard about what in the same Pinta happened with Ghost from South Central. I believe he was from 42nd, but he was in there, and I guess he was trying to do that little. He was trying to get his hustle on, to be sincere. He was going to buy, at the tienditas in there, and then he would chop them up and try to make a little bit of money, but they didn't like that, and he's been one of the only persons that he's been found chopped up in Mexico, and this all happened in Puente Grande. But at the same time, when this all was going on, a big old war was going on too with Sinaloa and the Beltranes breaking off, which uh, which I will later get into. In my next story I will get into that because a lot happened in between this. Because we were playing that clear house thing with them, and it was hard. It was hard. They were strong people, and they were on guard because at one time they belonged, to the Sinaloa, so they knew how Sinaloa was, how basically we were supporting them, So it was hard to get to them, but I would get later into detail. I just wanted to touch on the NF member that was out here. Like I stated, I don't really know his background to the fullest. I know he was up there because that we did find out, but we don't know to what extent. We know that his real name was Octavio Martinez. Other than that, man, he was down here just using norteños, just as they're used to too. But to the point where he started picking up the estilo here in Mexico. For example, telling norteños, hey, there's some stash spots here and it's safe to go jack them. They will go hit them, take their shit. Excuse my language, their stuff, and then turn around and go to the cartel, get a cut, and turn them in. And you guys know what happens here in Mexico. You don't mess with their with their material or their houses. And I just think it's real dirty. And it's just funny how I think NF members and MM members, they're so alike. They could be in China and they will never change their ways. At the end of the day, they're not for raza. They're not for the gente. So the reason I put these stories out there, it ain't to glorify the stuff I was involved. Believe me, I'm ashamed to even speak about it, because now I had time to sit down, reflect, and the only solution I could reach is that I was an idiot, that I wasted my life, and now I'm going through agony and suffering, and it's the only time that I have for myself, and in reality, I don't have it. I don't know if that makes sense. So I put my stories out there for those youngsters. Don't be don't be like me. Um, I'm 44 years old now, and I got nothing to say I'm leaving behind, man. But suffering, agony. I made my family suffer. I made a lot of people suffer, and here I am. I'm actually free of everything. You could say that, and still suffering. So, wise up. Love your loved ones. Love yourself, most of all. There is no winning in this type of life. And it don't matter where you're at, prison, on the streets. It's just a matter of time before you get put in a situation that ain't going to favor you or your loved ones. Because as everybody knows, they're attacking loved ones. And I think that had to do a lot with how many people or how many of them were starting to do things here in Mexico, where they don't respect family here. Just certain individuals do, but other than that, it's a free for go in Mexico. But I will get into the story about the little the little war that Sinaloa and Beltranes were going, and our park in it, and it was something to remember for, you know, for reals. It was something, but I would touch on it. I just thought I would conclude the story about, the norteños and the NFers. Yes, we had a lot of crossings with a lot of norteños that wanted Holly and they were touching their people there. Which, if I see fit, I would touch on them. But it was nothing like this cat. Again, he was just using and abusing his gente, as they all do. But with this said, I hope everybody continue to stay blessed. I hope everybody has a beautiful weekend. Again, gracias Tony for everything and everyone. Thank you for your prayers. May you and your families always stay blessed. Stay true to yourself and loyal to your